Today we're going to be taking a look at a Casablanca Columbia II. This is one of Casablanca's earlier models, making its debut all the way back in the K63 era, becoming a bit more obscure and kind of swept under the rug around the latter half of the SQ era, around 1982 or 83, and then being discontinued entirely by 1985. This model was offered in two different finishes, antique brass and polished brass. Polished brass being significantly less common than antique brass. And this particular model is a K63 unit. It may not look like it, looking at it from the bottom, as it has the K55 era style of K4L, as well as pretzel irons. But looking at the top, it is K63. The Columbia II is certainly one of the most ornate models Casablanca ever manufactured. The craftsmanship is quite exquisite. Fan has antique oak blades. When I first got this fan, it did not come with a light kit. I put this one on myself, which is why it is not era appropriate. Though I did put on the grandma glass that Casablanca definitely offered back in the late 70s. And as for the blades, I do not believe this set originally belonged to this fan. I plucked this ceiling fan out of a batch that included a handful of SQ and IT Victorians, and I believe this blade set originally belonged to one of them, as by the time SQ rolled out, the Victorians, I believe, could be offered with either standard or pretzel irons, and then by the time IT came around, I believe all Victorians came with pretzel irons. But definitely not complaining, as it's still a very nice look. And this blade set is very well balanced, which is nice considering, bell canopies tend to cause fans to wobble sometimes. Put on the light there. Overall, this fan is in very good condition. It's perhaps one of the best conditioned K63s I have. The one Achilles heel, though, is something that is a major problem with a lot of K63 Casas, and that it's that you see right there, the bushing for the shaft is very worn away, if not missing entirely, which causes the whole switch housing to rattle back and forth quite a bit. Anyways, start the fan up as slow as it can go. I do not believe I adjusted the trim pot before putting this fan up, so just happened to be at the perfect spot already. So there you have the nice aesthetic low, very akin to the minimum speed on Slumber Quiet. I'll turn it up a bit. Now on this fan I have to be incredibly careful when turning that variable speed knob, as One of the main issues with those knobs is that it is very close to the blades on every Casablanca, but this one in particular, because the flywheel is a bit dropped, as that's part of the Columbia II's design, and also I think this one just happens to be lower than most others, the knob barely clears the irons. It's like less than a centimeter of clearance, if even that. So getting your fingers caught in those blades is going to be something to watch out for on this fan, at least for me. I think I've lamented about this in previous videos, but it's also kind of annoying how the knob always happens to be directly above one of the light kit arms, so it's a little hard to reach around it. And if you look closely, you may be able to see the switch housing rattling around a little bit. Most noticeable if you look closely at the light shades. Medium speed here has a little bit of wobble. Even still, this is one of the best balanced K63 casts I have, up there with my pewter Zephyr and white and brass Victorian. K63 motor is not making a whole lot of noise. This is one of the quieter K63s I have, that much is for sure. And full speed. Some may say that a quieter K63 automatically equates to it being a smaller K63, but I wouldn't necessarily agree with that because despite this motor's general quietness, this fan is still spinning pretty fast. And here you can really see the switch housing rocking about. It's not necessarily rattling, it's more just swaying a little bit. It's definitely not as bad as my other K63 Columbia II. If you remember that video from a few years ago when the switch housing would rattle like whenever I didn't put my hand on it, when that fan was running at full speed. And there you go. An antique brass K63 Casablanca Columbia II.